Well, I am lazy, which is why I didn't make proper backgrounds for this. Or a good intro. Yeet!
Hey everyone, it's Dave from the R-Anime Podcast, and この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Or, today's episode is brought to you by HIDIVE and Sentai Filmworks. HIDIVE is an anime streaming service available at hidive.com on iOS devices, Android devices, and even the Xbox app, which I use a ton. They have everything from seasonals to classics, subbed and dubbed, including both seasons of K-On! And K-On! The Movie. And if you sign up using the promo code below, that's TAP2019 5483348, you get half off your first month. That's $2.49 for an entire month of HD streaming anime at your fingertips. Meanwhile, Sentai Filmworks, you know them well, great friends of the podcast and licensors of countless anime. Sentai brings anime to your homes through DVDs, Blu-rays, and amazing box sets. They got tons of merch as well, from t-shirts to posters. And they also have this amazing, incredible K-On! Box set that was just released earlier this year. In fact, thanks to their generosity, we'll be giving away one of the limited edition K-On! Box sets to one lucky listener to the podcast. Not only does it have all the episodes for Season 1 and Season 2 along with the film, but it's housed in this really cool art box, kind of looks like a case for an instrument for a concert, and it's chock full of goodies, from guitar picks to a keychain to postcards and even a soundtrack. It's got what I found most interesting, which are pamphlets for each entry of the series that contain everything from character bios to comments from the creators like director Yamada Naoko and character designer Horiguchi Yukiko, and even notes from the character themselves. I made sure to pre-order my copy a while ago and absolutely love it. To enter into this giveaway to get your own copy, all you have to do is follow the R-Anime Podcast Twitter account, which is at TokyoPodFathers, follow Sentai Filmworks and at HIDIVE Official on Twitter, and then retweet the tweet that has the link to this podcast. It'll be linked to our profile. You can't miss it. You can also reply to the tweet itself with your favorite moment or character in K-On! And if that's not enough, you can also subscribe to the R-Anime Podcast YouTube channel and leave a comment for this episode talking about why you love K-On! That's right. That's 3 ways to enter for this amazing exclusive K-On! Blu-ray box set, and we can't wait to see what you guys have to say. So each of one of those things counts as one entry, and we'll be announcing the winners for that a couple weeks after this episode comes out. Details will be finalized in the tweet. And with all that in mind, warning, the following episode contains spoilers as well as coarse language and possibly tea and cakes. Viewer discretion is advised. And welcome back, everyone. It's Tay from the R-Anime Podcast, and today we are going to be talking about one of our favorite anime of all time, in honor of its 10-year anniversary. Yes, that is the one, the only, K-On! From Kyoto Animation. And today we have an all-star stacked cast to talk about this amazing franchise in anime history, one of the most influential, one of the most popular too. So I'm Pete Steele Taylor, and I'm joined by Mozilla Fennekin. How you doing, man?
Hey, not to be controversial or anything, but I think fun things are fun.
Ooh,
hot take.
I don't know if we're going to be able to have Moz on this podcast. Meanwhile, we also have... you might have heard of him a couple of times. He's been on the podcast before. I'm sure that's where you first heard of him. We have UnderTheScope, aka Jack. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. This is becoming a trend. I'm okay with coming back every time you talk about Yamada.
It is kind of surprising because you have this awesome YouTube channel for anyone who, for some reason, doesn't know, at UnderTheScope. And I really thought you'd be more into the Fate universe. My favorite video of yours is the 10 strongest Fate servants in the Fate universe.
Oh boy, we are getting off to a good start here, aren't we? Send everyone to my worst video, thanks.
Oh man, no. But you also have a ton of episodes on Kyoto Animation, especially Euphonium, and the Kyoto Animation information god himself, the one, the only UltimatemegaX, making his first podcast appearance. How you doing, X?
I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me for this one.
Of course, it's great to have you on. I mean, I can speak for pretty much everyone on the internet. You are like the source for us Westerners who can't read Japanese on everything and anything and everything Kyoto Animation related. I know for me, when I first got into Kyoto Animation and I was reading through it, I was like, where can I find like translated interviews and like more information? Like your blog was always at the top. So thank you again, and thank you for coming on.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, speaking of, let's talk a little bit about K-On! Itself and how we came across it. So, let's see. Maz, how did you come across K-On! And when did you first start watching it?
Well, I heard about it for, I don't know, a little while before I actually watched it, which was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I was interested in Kyoto Animation as a studio. This was when Myriad Colors Phantom World came out, and lots of people don't like that show, but because it was a kind of a weird thing for Kyoto Animation to do because they were such a high-class studio, I suppose. So I decided to watch more of their stuff to see what was going on. I watched Hibike, I watched some of Hyoka, some of Nichijou and all. And of course, season 1 of K-On! Liked it quite a bit, and I think pretty much everyone can tell you season 1 is, it's fun, and then season 2 is where it really comes into its that's when it really becomes, the god of slice of life that it is. And yeah. Just I have a really, really simple and really casual introduction to the series, probably much simpler than anyone else on here.
No, I can definitely relate to it. I mean, I came across it my senior year of college, so this would have been early 2015. And one of my close friends had said, like, oh, you should really watch Clannad, it'll make you cry. And I was like, I'm not going to cry watching Clannad. And then I did cry watching Clannad and Clannad After Story. And then I was just going through like anime recommendations on the subreddit, and like I kept hearing people talk about K-On! Someone wrote an amazing watch this thread on the subreddit as well, talking about how K-On! Was so good. And at that point, I was like very much into like the dark shonen, like Shonen Jump manga adaptations, and I was like, oh, like
the mature anime.
Yeah, mature. Yes, edgy, adult, mature anime. Thank you, Jack. Exactly like the one tweet you're referencing. And I was like, man, like all these people are talking about how great K-On! Is, and how influential K-On! Is, and how no one can hate K-On! Watch this. I'm gonna watch K-On! All the way through it, and I'm gonna hate every second of it. And then I loved it from like episode 1, like partway through episode 1. I just fell in love and absolutely loved it, and just like fell head over heels for the show, for the franchise, and definitely for the studio after that. And definitely like got me starting watching like more Kyoto Animation anime, and definitely more slice of life. And then how about you, UltimatemegaX? How did you come across this?
I'm kind of similar in both of you, although whenever I started watching it, it was because it was so despised at the time. So I was big into Haruhi whenever I started watching, kind of getting back into anime for a while. And so at that time, K-On! Was thought to be one of the reasons why we weren't getting a Haruhi Season 3, or more Haruhi in general after the Disappearance movie. So I thought, you know what, just like you, I'm going to try to watch it and see how much I despise it. And coming out of it, I realized fun things are fun, and all those people are wrong.
Amen to that.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with tea and cakes too, and occasionally music.
Right.
And,
yeah, my experience getting into it was kind of similar to all of yours, in the sense that K-On!'s reputation definitely exceeded itself in the Western fandom when I first got into it. I'm terrible with years, so don't even ask. But when I first watched season 1, I want to say I was a senior in high school, and I liked it. I totally thought that the all the like memes about how it's motherfucking tea and cake. Sorry if I that's a quote. Okay, I'm quoting the memes. All right. Yeah, so I thought that a lot of that was pretty misguided and kind of missing what the series was going for. But it wasn't until about a year later, I think it was between my freshman and sophomore year of college, maybe, that I returned to the series and finished it by watching season 2 and the movie, that it legitimately became one of my favorites.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to think of like how K-On!'s reputation does precede itself, because I feel like now that I've come to love it and watch it, and I think definitely in recent years it's kind of gone back to the being like this critically acclaimed slice of life. But for a very long time, everyone's like, oh, like K-On!, the bane of all anime. It's the reason why we have so much boy blob shit all around. Also, again, quoting the memes.
Better than
like,
me.
and like why like all we have like no more of the edgy adult shows anymore. We got like kid shows all the time. But it is kind of interesting to see how it shifted, and I think that has to do with maybe the time that's gone by since K-On! Started. But what better way to talk about how K-On! Got started than the start of K-On! Itself? So, season 1 of K-On!, Maz, you talked a little bit about this. It's definitely so like watching K-On!, you can, at least for me, you can definitely tell it's a little, how do you say, unpolished, a little like rough. Like you can definitely tell that it's different than the other shows that have come from Kyoto Animation. Like for me, it was a very stark contrast going from like Haruhi season 2 to K-On! Season 1. And so for you guys, when you were watching K-On! Season 1 specifically, what was kind of going through your mind as you were watching it? Specifically, maybe with regards to the main cast, since this is a slice of life and the focus is usually on the characters more than, some global conflict.
Yeah, I think you touched on something important there that, like, while it definitely has the look of other KyoAni anime, both before it and since, the style, there's definitely, like, a looser feel to the animation that I think Horiguchi's character designs, like, that's one thing that she's really good at, is having these really malleable character designs, and I think that really lends itself well to a series like K-On!, where the character acting and movements of the characters and stuff, that really accentuates the comedy that it's going for. So yeah, one thing that was going through my mind in season 1 was that going into it, I had been informed that it was a show supposedly about music that wasn't actually about music. And as I watched season 1, I realized this is a show that never tries to be about music. That's at no point is that the message of the show. Like, even I think when they're in the training camp in episode 4 or whatever, they like, not only do they continue to forget to go to training to practice, but after like Yui does like her big dance in front of the fireworks, then Ritsu mentions how they're going to play at Budokan, and Yui's like, wait, we said we were going to do that? So it's like their goal that they've already completely forgotten their goal that they set in episode 1. And I think that once you let go of that and realize what the show is trying to go for, which is just more of the interactions between its main cast, you're going to enjoy yourself a lot more.
Yeah, I think for me too, I kept thinking in the back of my mind, having watched some sports anime here and there, that, like you watch a baseball anime and they're like, oh, we're going to go to Koshien or going to nationals. And like they inevitably do go to nationals. Or you watch, like basketball anime or like tennis. They're like, oh, we're going to go to nationals. We're going to go to this. And like they eventually do. But like, episode 1 talks about how they'll go to Budokan. And they like never really make a point to try and go,
right?
Because that's not the point of the anime. The point of the anime is not the destination, really, to go to Budokan. It's more the journey along the way. And how about you, Moss? On your thoughts for season 1, then?
Specifically, what was interesting about it is that I was interested in watching it mostly for the music aspect of it. Just because I was watching some other music anime at the time, like I mentioned Hibike Euphonium, I also watched Your Lie in April. Thought an anime about 4 girls starting a rock band would be kind of cool, but yeah, like you said, it's not really about that. It's just the fun interactions they have, and I don't know. Maybe for season 1, I didn't think too much of it at the time because it was a very early time for me, and I was still learning a lot about anime and what I'm interested in. But it was just fun overall.
Yeah, fun things are fun. I have a feeling we're going to be saying that a lot in this episode,
especially for season 1.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So X, because you have so much background about K-On! And Kyoto Animation and the anime industry as a whole, what was it about season 1 that allowed it to be so unique and such a phenomenon, really? And did you have a sense of that as you were watching it?
Absolutely no sense of that whenever I was watching it. I mean, I knew it was popular in Japan because it was getting a second season, but like, I had no idea it would be this influential for KyoAni as a studio. ironically, we mentioned about expectations going in. What's kind of fun about it, or funny in one aspect, is that this aired only a few weeks after the finale of After Story. Like almost, I believe it was in the same time slot too on TBS. So that is a pretty interesting shift from the end of After Story to the very first part of episode 1 when Yui's running and just stopping everywhere.
Yeah. Oh wow. So I did not realize my my anime watching experience lined up with how everything would air.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is actually an interesting bridge because, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the first half of the finale of Clannad After Story was also directed by Yamada Naoko, if I remember. Like the emotional capstone of that whole franchise.
I believe she also directed episode 16, which is the one where a lot of people end up crying.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it hits
spoilers.
hard, which
It's a big
I feel
one.
like, yeah, if you go into Clannad After Story without knowing that it's a hard-ending show, well, you know now. It's not quite like, although K-On! Does hit hard, but not really in season 1. Season 1 seems to be a lot more, I guess, kind of like light, not to borrow the light music term, but it's a lot more, feels more like cotton candy. Almost, it's like very sweet. There's like some emotional depth to it, but mostly I just like had a enjoyable time throughout, especially the interactions between Mio, Yui, Mugi, and Ritsu, of course, and just the hijinks they got into.
One thing I really do like about season 1 is Yui's arc throughout, where it kind of basically the entire season can be boiled down to Yui finding a direction and a circle that she's happy with, and something that she enjoys doing. Because the first episode, she's kind of this like wishy-washy character that just has no idea on whatever she's doing. And by the end, in fact, the first episode and the last episode of season 1 parallel each other in some ways, with Yui like really now having that direction. I recall that the scene in the opening scene of the entire series where she's like walking to school and constantly getting distracted. I'm pretty sure that the last episode of season 1 has a similar scene. And I don't know if I'm confusing this with the first episode of season 2, but one of the two has a similar scene where she's making that same run to school without the distractions.
It's episode 12, season 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it has
exactly.
like a montage of like from season 1, exactly as you said, in like grayscale / black and white, of her like running past and like constantly getting distracted, but like her with the voiceover talking about like how she has a purpose now and how she has a clear goal now. So yeah, so like Yui definitely gets a lot of screen time and I feel like a lot of depth throughout. Did you guys have similar feelings about Mio, Ritsu, and Mugi in season 1?
One of my favorite episodes is the one where Ritsu gets sick and Mio goes to take care of her essentially, and they have like that argument. I think that episode in particular is like the perfect example of how K-On! Just understands friendships, and that it feels really organic. Like I understand that the characters are very much caricatures of reality. Like I don't know anyone that is actually like Yui. And if you do know someone like that, that might be a problem. But like at the same time, like while yes, they are these like hilarious, eccentric personalities, the bonds between them and their friendships are very much true to life. And I think that episode in particular really accentuates that.
One thing I really like about that episode is I believe that's also an anime original, and it to me really showcased that Reiko Yoshida, the screenwriter, Yamada Naoko, the director, like all the creators of the K-On! Anime really had a solid grasp on the characters. And one of the reasons I now like it even more is it's like the first time we see Yamada Naoko like really come up with this idea that the best way to showcase your friendship or like to show the depths of your friendship for someone else is to know their footsteps and recognize their footsteps from afar.
Yeah, that's such a great moment.
Which we see in Liz and the Bluebird as well. So a little callback many years later from Yamada.
After many, many leg shots.
Correct.
There's so many leg shots. It is crazy.
And many memes.
So many memes. It is crazy going through season 1 and like seeing the uptick in leg shots the more comfortable she gets as a director.
And so, funny story, before Taylor approached me about this podcast, I actually had just started a rewatch of the series of my own volition. So this was perfect timing. And going back and watching season 1 now after all these years, because K-On! Was the first Yamada work that I watched. And so now returning to the series for the first time since I've watched all of her other works, you can really tell that K-On! Season 1, Yamada hadn't exactly like found her own directorial voice yet. And while so like some of like the quirks and stuff you might be able to find here and there, but there's a really noticeable change between season 1 and season 2 in terms of its direction, where you can really see that Yamada starts to come into her own.
Well, no, season 1 was supervised a lot by Ishihara as well.
Yeah. So, Boz, you came into this actually with this technically being, I guess, your second Yamada work, coming from watching Euphonium. Did you have any different expectations of what you expected out of K-On! From watching that first, or did you kind of approach it in a new way? Saying, and how was that experience?
I'll admit, I probably didn't even know that it was by the same director. It was all, I didn't really know much at the time. I just wanted to see a bunch of KyoAni works.
Right. And so I have to ask you guys, of the 4, who is your favorite? So, Moz?
Favorite girl?
Yeah, exactly. Or favorite member of the cast.
Question, best girl.
Yes.
It's funny because, it's actually a really easy answer for me. It's Mugi. But I always, I don't know, feel a bit of reservation whenever I get asked this, because whenever you say like, oh yeah, who's best girl? It kind of feels like there's a loser as part of that quote. Like everyone who's not your best girl is like kind of a, just the worst girl, I suppose. But it's not like
first, you're last.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not like any of them are bad. Like I really love all of them. They're all pretty much 100%. Equally important. Yeah, they're all pretty much equally important to the series. I guess I just like Mugi's personality more. But yeah. I don't have I mean, I don't know. It's kind of fun to argue about, who's the best girl with everybody, but I really have nothing against anybody who has a different opinion.
Except the ones who really like June, Ui's friend.
Wait, there are people.
Yeah,
that's a thing?
the moderator of the K-On! Subreddit actually is like a huge June fan.
Interesting.
Which I'm not like against, it's just very puzzling.
Hey, props for
Weird
originality.
flex, but okay.
There's also people who really like Tachibana, the one like the really cool girl in their class with like the long blonde hair.
Oh yeah.
But how about you, Jack? Who's your favorite member of the K-On!
I'll drop some hot takes. No, not actually. I am totally with Moz here that like I would die for each and every one of these girls.
Yes.
But I don't know. So I always said it was Mio, but like I've been rewatching the series and I really don't know. They're all so good. I think that Mugi might be the one that I'm like closest to in terms of personality. I don't know if I would say she's my favorite. It's really tough. The only one I definitely know I wouldn't pick is Asusa. Sorry.
Ooh.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Yeah.
X, how about you? Do you have a favorite member?
I'm kind of jumping ahead to season 2, but I'll go with Ton-chan.
Oh,
No, I'm joking. It's Mugi.
Ooh, we got a lot of Mugi support on the podcast today.
I'm a fan of the Mugi flavor in this podcast.
Yeah.
Eyebrow squad, rise up.
Yes, defend the eyebrows.
Gosh, I love that moment in season 1 where Yui's sick and she like plucks the eyebrows off Mugi and starts eating them. In that weird dream sequence.
The pickled eyebrows.
Yes, the daikon eyebrows. Oh man. Yeah, no, for me, like everyone else has said, it feels weird to rank them because that means someone's last and I don't want to do that. But definitely has to be Ritsu for me. Like early on, I was like, oh, like Miu's pretty great. But then like Ritsu's humor and like just the way she like is a total prankster and just like the class clown just like really appealed to me. And I just found her absolutely hilarious, and the way she like interacts differently with each member of the band. Although like that can be said for every one of them, really. And the way they're able to play off each other. I really enjoyed. But yeah, I don't think there is someone I don't like. Although, because someone brought it up, what do you guys think of the addition of Azusa, or Azunyan, as Yui likes to call her, in episode 8 of season 1? And how do you feel that changed the direction of the show, the franchise?
It's kind of funny. I think that so at first I was like a little annoyed by Azusa, because I was like, she was the one who wanted to get them to focus, and he was like, no, just let them have their fun. But I think Azusa would be all of us if we were actually there with this group. I think she's definitely probably the most relatable. If we were in real life, in the real life HTT. Yes.
I think we had seen the other 4 for over 7 episodes at this time. We've had our expectations of what K-On! Is supposed to be, what it's about, and in comes someone new, and there's change involved with that, and it feels odd, But at the same time, it wouldn't be after school tea time without Azunan.
Mm-hmm.
I like what Jack said about how Azusa is probably the most relatable, with how she's trying to get everyone's shit together, but at the same time, she's not really much better than any of them. She kind of gets strung along. But I also like that first part about her, where she's, she's the underclassman, and so everyone just kind of takes her less seriously, I suppose. But at the same time, is the most mature, or like most, with
right.
Again, how she's trying to get everyone organized, and I think that was actually really necessary for the series. I think that maybe if it was just about, the 4 main girls, then the series might have had a bit more limited of a lifespan. But having a character that is, just a little bit different from the group, just a little bit disconnected, and having a different opinion of them, it was really necessary for the series.
Right, and especially as a foil to Yui in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Mio kind of plays that role at first, but quickly, like in the beach episode or whatever, Mio clearly is easily sucked in with the rest of them.
Right.
Azusa definitely fills in those shoes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of great seeing Azusa try. Like, it's one of my favorite running jokes how they keep trying to get she keeps trying to get Hokago Tea Time to practice, and they're like, how about we just drink tea and eat cakes? She's just like, no. And actually, one of the reasons why I think season 1 stands out to me is because it has that depth to it. Because we have that moment where Azusa is like, hey, Mio, like, why are you even a part of this band? Like, they're goofing off, they don't take it seriously, and like, you're a really good bassist. You could like join any band you want to. Why are you in this one? And Mio replies, this is fun. Like, I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy being with these people. And you see the stickler that is Azusa, the one who's like kind of a perfectionist and kind of wants to get everything done. Just understand what Mio means by that. And we also see the fun ways that they bully her into trying to like join by, showing her the cake, putting the cat ears on her. Sawo-chan Sensei is hilarious for that too.
Yeah. We need to give Sawako some love in the best girl discussion too.
Sawako is good, yeah.
Sawo-chan Sensei best Christmas cake.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I really like her too, because we also have her, like, we talked about how they kind of defy expectations again with the Budokan thing, with the Azusa thing, and also with Sawo-chan Sensei, because like she has this air of someone who's like really put together and like is gonna be super popular as the new teacher. And then it turns out she was like part of Death Devil and like a heavy rock band when she was in high school. So
it's an incredible twist.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere, and like Sawo-chan Sensei is really fun because of that. And like the way she gets them into all sorts of different outfits. Speaking of, I will say in season 1, one of the things I do really like about Yamada as a director is that she very clearly does not like fan service. And one of the changes early on she made between the source material to the anime adaptation is the scene where Mio trips and falls during the first concert. And like it cuts to a bowl of rice with the with the striped pattern, whereas in the manga it's very, like it just shows her her underwear. But to me, I found that like a really funny way of like one not ceding to the fan service while also making it like an iconic, hilarious moment.
I'll give him
much
credit.
funnier that way.
I'll give him credit. That was Ishihara's episode.
Oh really?
Oh wow!
Yep.
Oh, I remember. So, how much influence do you think Ishihara had in this? And for people who are not so aware, Ishihara, what the director of Haruhi and so many other things that X can tell us about too. So, I know now Yamada has said that Ishihara was kind of like a mentor to her. Do you think that influence played a big part in K-On! Season 1?
Yeah, definitely season 1 is a little bit what I would call more semi-male focused. Like it's oriented towards a more male audience. And even though it found a big success with high school girls and older females as well, a lot of it was originally designed kind of for a male audience. And Yamada leaned on Ishihara for that male perspective, that male point of view. And he had just finished After Story from this. And I remember one of the interviews from TBS's producer Nakayama mentioning, if it was Ishihara, you wouldn't have had the depth of someone like Mugi. I mean, not to speak too poorly of him, but Ishihara doesn't allow for like a lot of character depth. I feel like most of his characters tend to be cliche. And I think you see more growth in character depth in season 2 than you do in season 1. And you see, you mentioned about how Mio kind of jumps in and kind of becomes more the fun side of things. And it ends up almost being kind of a cliche for that, and you need Azusa to kind of balance that out again.
That's true, yeah. And like Mugi definitely could have just been a one-note character. I remember an episode, like she's so different in episode 1 that she is by the end, where like episode 1 she literally has like Yuri binoculars for Mio and Ritsu.
And especially in episode 5.
Yeah, it's interesting with Mugi because like especially once Azusa joins, you kind of have like Mio and Ritsu as natural pairings, being the like friends from before the band formed, and then Azusa and Yui share a lot of screen time together just because they're often at odds with each other. And Mugi's kind of like the like mysterious fifth one that like nobody's really sure about what's going on in her head sometimes. But like when you get moments with Mugi and the other band members individually, like outside of the group dynamic, I think it really fleshes her character out well, and you get a lot of fun interactions. In particular, I'm pretty sure this is in season 2, but in particular, the episode where she's spending time with Ritsu, you get a lot of fun stuff there.
And also her little story by herself in episode 13 of season 1, when she gets a part-time job for the first time.
That is to die for. So precious.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to see, and it is really awesome to see how they evolve, not within season 1, but definitely, I think we're all kind of leading up to it. K-On! Definitely changes in season 2. And X, can you share a little bit of light on first of all, how did we get a season 2 so quickly, and what kind of changes were made behind the scenes to enable such a radically different, or at least tonally different, season 2?
Season 2 came across based off of fan demand. Their season 1, while it didn't have a extremely high rating when people watched it live, it was pretty high on DVR in Japan. And TBS got a lot of letters from fans after season 1 finished airing, so they made season 2 based off of that. And one of the more interesting things with season 2 was the amount of channels it aired on. Because it's TBS has their own little network of news stations and, well, not necessarily news stations. they're their own stations all around Japan, but they share the same kind of news information. And season 1 only aired on 7 of those, including their satellite TV. But because they wanted to make it more easier for fans to watch it, they actually aired season 2 on 22 stations.
Damn.
Which, we're lucky sometimes to get TV anime broadcast on 4 or so. And here was 22 back in 2010.
Right.
So,
dang. And I heard a lot of some of those channels seem to be like family oriented channels as well. It wasn't just like late night anime.
Whenever it first aired, it's rebroadcasted on other channels. I mean, the one that we go to in the West is Disney Channel because of its reputation in the US. But I know season 1 aired on NHK television, if I remember right. It was one of the NHK channels.
Oh wow.
So, and that's broadcast, it's the nearest thing to public TV in Japan. Every TV gets NHK. And so everyone in Japan could watch it at that time. So that's how far it reached out.
Dang. So like from the moment season 2 was airing, it was already going to be a super popular hit.
Yeah. They knew it was going to be super popular. I mean, even before season 2 aired, TBS's Nakayama wanted to make a game for it.
Oh, what? Dang.
And so he asked Sega Sega got involved because they made a lot of the Vocaloid games, and so they made a PSP rhythm game. I can't remember what it was called, but it was released in 2010 alongside season 2.
Yeah. Man, so imagine if K-On! Came out now, we'd definitely get a gacha game. It'd be like right next to School Idol Festival. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So one of the other things I had heard was that so on the Oricon charts, which is like I'm assuming their Billboard kind of thing, K-On! Became the first all-girl group to hit the number 1 and number 2 spots on the Oricon charts with the first OP and the first ED of season 2. So, if you were ever wondering how big K-On! Was in Japan, it's nuts. And so with all that added exposure, I can't imagine that, there was any less pressure on them to deliver a good product or like a product worthy of all that extra exposure. And for me, from the very first scene of season 2, like you could tell it's going to be completely different. Like that first minute and a half, it's just Yui jamming out on her guitar, no other dialogue. You see the other characters coming from their houses to school together. And it's like really masterfully done. Like, I just really love that scene. And then like the rest of season 2 is just uphill from there too.
That opening scene in season 2, that's Yamada. Like that, you watch that now, like I would not be surprised to see a scene like, that in Yamada's work today. Like you can really see her directorial style develop there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And actually, like that, reminds me. So I feel like a lot of her opening scenes in her works are really iconic. So season 2 of that, Tamako Market episode 9, with the focus on Tamako's parents. Like the opening to that episode is really well done. The opening to Liz, she likes focusing.
I could go on about that for an hour.
And the opening for episode 1 in Euphonium, both the flashback and Kumiko's walk to school.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that walk to school is just like absolutely gorgeous with the sakura petals and like the bokeh shots. I think it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like
the opening to A Silent Voice with Ishida's like near suicide attempt and then bridging into the flashback.
Yeah, with the best anime OP done by the Who.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's so much. It just feels a lot like deeper, like it has more depth to it already in that opening scene than season 1 really ever strove for.
It has that like really careful consideration to the characters' body movements and expression, like focused shots on their hands and legs and
lots of leg shots.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we get like a 10-second cut of just like Yui tapping her music as she does the guitar solo and like hums to My Love is a Stapler song, I believe. So
I think it is, yeah.
So like with season 2, what did you guys think of it after watching season 1?
Well, season 2 is definitely, like I said, that's where it really, blossoms into being this quite fantastic slice of life series. Because I think that, I don't know, like the introduction to a story is always kind of the weakest part because it's like, it takes some time to warm up. But then with season 2, it's like you already know the characters, you're already used to them, you know what you're going to get with this series, so it can just kind of, it's just on cruise control from that point on, and it only really gets better, especially as the series reaches new emotional heights as the girls' graduation looms closer and closer, and there's that kind of that bittersweet tone of, it might be ending soon, but we've been spending so much time together and all those things. It's really nice, and they really did a great job at just deepening the emotional, I guess, arc of the whole series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you made a great point. You said it's almost like it's on cruise control, because I really get the sense in season 2 that the dynamic between the group feels a lot more assured, and it seems like the staff behind it were more comfortable writing these characters, and so their dynamic comes off extremely organically, and the fun things are fun that we got in season 1 really turns up a notch in season 2.
You guys make a good point about how, like, especially Moss, about how things kind of seem to come. You feel like they're going to come to an end eventually. And I feel like that's the difference between season 1 and season 2. Like, season 1, to me, the emotional high of that series is when they do Fua time, Fluffy time in the solo in the last episode for the school festival. And like they end, it's kind of bittersweet, and then like Mugi ramps up with the chord progression again, and then Ritsu joins in, then Mio joins in, and like, first of all, that's like the most hype moment in anime. Fucking love that shit. Like, man, like that is like some sports anime stuff right there. but like, so it kind of gives you, or at least me, the idea that, like, even when things end, things will pick up again. Like, you'll have the chance for Mugi to like bang out a couple of chords and like keep singing Fua time. But from the very first couple of episodes in K-On! Season 2, like when they're trying to recruit new members into the Light Music Club, we see Yui say that, like they want to find members so that Azusa isn't alone when they graduate. But on the other hand, they really like what they have now, and they want to be able to have these precious memories with their kohai, with their underclassmen for the year. And so that's always kind of in the backdrop that like their days are numbered as they're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that, one factor that plays into it a lot is that unlike season 1, where you have 2 of their years squished into 13 episodes, here you have 24 episodes for 1 year.
Oh yeah.
And so they're able to like really flesh that out. And the end kind of, despite like them like constantly being aware of it, it still sneaks up on them. And I think that's where the emotion really comes in. And honestly, a lot of the relatability of the friendships of K-On! Comes in. Because I think, pretty much anyone can relate to that like growing apart, and those fun times coming to an end. And K-On! Does an incredible job at showing that like human feeling of and the ends to relationships coming.
Mm-hmm.
I think something that Yamada said in interviews, not necessarily towards K-On!, but towards other works, is this is a feeling that they could only experience at that moment. Mm. I think that's what really developed from season 2.
Yeah. And like you mentioned this as well, Jack, that like it kind of creeps up on them. So what I like to do sometimes is like, if I'm having a down day, or I have like 20, 30 minutes to spare in between like things I have to go to or do, I'll just go to like Google and like type in a random number generator and like just have it choose a number between like 1 and 39 and then just watch the corresponding K-On! Episode. And, which is great, honestly. And today, like, I was like, oh, like, I have some time before we start recording. I'll just do it. It came up with episode 8 of season 2, and I'm watching it, and like, it's the episode where Yui has to fill out her career plan sheet. And like, it's fun. They're talking about like how Nolika and Yui first met, and how Ritsu and Miu first met, and like, while it's fun and like it's cute to see like how they started, you're also getting the sense of like, you know, like the only reason why they have to submit their graduation surveys, career plans, is because they are going to graduate, they are going to leave, and so like each of these episodes are kind of within the context of them leaving, but like they're still having those like day-to-day moments, and I think that is a product of the fact that, you know, we get 26, 27 episodes for a single year. But yeah.
And it makes the ultimate realization of the fact that their time is coming to an end hit that much harder.
Oh, man.
I don't know about anybody else, but episode 20 after the school festival, that got me good.
Oh my gosh.
I was a wreck.
Especially with the 2 episodes before it being all about the play. You know, it's kind of great how they subverted your expectations to, you know, focus completely on the play. And then it's like, oh yeah, we got a concert too. And it's our final one. And it doesn't hit you until the moment they realize it, that was it.
Yeah, oh man. Like, because I had just finished watching Clanad After Story, and I was like, nothing's going to make me cry harder than Clanad After Story. And then we just have the moment where Yui's like listing all the things they're going to do, and keeps going, and you're like, oh shoot, like, no, Yui, after you graduate, you're like, after this year, you're not gonna recruit people again. You're not gonna like do the concert again. And like, she keeps going, and like for a while until Ritsu's like telling her she can, and then that's where the tears start really like coming down.
I can remember a particular moment in that scene in the club room where like, yeah, Yui's like happily listing off all the things that they're gonna do, and it's a close up shot of her, and then it goes to a wide shot, and you see like Mio like already crying, and then it's like it. One by one, it all starts to dawn on them, and then I'm just done.
Yeah, and then it plays the sad piano version of You and I.
It does, which oh man,
like really just like, how is this show about 5 girls drinking tea, eating cakes, occasionally playing music, like making me cry so hard?
Another Yamada episode. We mentioned episode 16 in After Story. She made you cry again with episode 20.
Yeah. God,
Yamada's pretty good at doing that to me.
Yeah. Yo, I'm pretty sure I've cried in every Yamada. I have. Yeah, because between After Story...
I didn't cry in Tamako Love Story.
Oh, really? The opening kind of got me, where they showed the mom and dad like meet cute thing with the letter and the OP.
Oh yeah, probably the closest moment in Love Story that got to me was the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Which
it definitely moved me. There's no doubt about that.
Which I love too. Speaking of K-On!, because that Tamako's mom is played by Miu's voice actress Yoko Hikasa, and Mio, you know, phenomenal singer. And then in Tamako Love Story, she has to be like this really tone deaf singer. Speaking of, I like with Kyoto Animation, I love how they have like voice actresses or voice actors play like several roles within the franchise. But one thing I still can't believe is that Ritsu also voices Chitanda in Hyoka.
Oh god, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they're like completely different character personalities. But yeah, same voice actress. I can't imagine they were like, okay, you were great in Ritsu, so now we want you as Chitanda.
It's crazy to me that the K-On! Voice actresses were all like newbies at the time.
Yeah, especially
they're so
Yui's.
good.
I think that was like Yui's voice actress's like first major role in anything.
Yeah.
I think so. Same for Asusa's voice actress. I mean, now she's known for all the tsunderes, but...
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like a lot of them are famous by now. But yeah, no, it's pretty incredible that they were able to get such talented seiyus on this.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Code Geass effect, where a lot of the voice actors for Code Geass were kind of new and then like absolutely blew up after that. And it's also kind of weird watching other anime with these voice actresses. Like I watched Scum's Wish, Kuzuno Honkai, and the teacher who's like a real predator, she's voiced by Yui. And I was like, oh no. I was like, no, Yui, you can't be doing this. Oh man. But yeah, it's just like throughout season 2, we also got a lot of anime original stuff. I believe some blessed soul on Reddit went through and like to the minute found out how many minutes were anime original and how many were actually from the manga source. And I believe it came out to like 97% of it was anime original.
Damn.
Well, they had.
I wanted to ask you, Taylor. So have you read the manga?
I have actually.
Because it's my understanding that the anime like definitely takes the manga and builds on it pretty significantly.
It does.
It's quite different, actually. So I started reading it after I finished watching K-On! Season 1, Season 2 in the movie, because I knew there was a K-On! College and K-On! High School manga, and it just left a really bad taste in my mouth. Like, it just felt like I was watching a much simplified version of the same characters that I'd come to love, and almost felt like the only reason why I keep reading this is because I had the anime versions of them in my head while I was reading.
Right. I see what you're saying, yeah. I mean, in general, I think that one thing KyoAni excels at is adaptation. And there's probably maybe no better example of that than K-On!
Yeah. I mean, Chunikoi also had the addition of Dekomori, who wasn't even in the original source material.
And Kuming. And the older sister.
Oh, yes.
Kuming was Ishihara. Dekomori was Juki Hanada, who also wrote some K-On! episode scripts.
Oh, Yuki Hana. They also wrote the UFO, right? They were the screenwriter?
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, why does that name sound familiar? I was like, oh, right. I've read that name in X's in translated interviews before.
Juki Hanada has written a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just getting flashbacks to the anime style interviews that are 15 pages long in the magazine and like 10,000 words long. And no, not again. Never again.
Well, I appreciate that you did it, because when I did my panel on Yamada Naoko at Anime Next, quite a few years back, like I remember printing out all the interviews you had so I could like highlight and make sure I could go through them. It was like 90 something pages of translated interviews you had done.
Basically, any content I've ever made on KyoAni has MegaX to thank for that.
I think it's more Yamada. Like.
Yeah, okay. First her.
No. It's X and then Yamada. Yamada created the works so that X could translate them, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I will give K-On! A lot of credit. Even prior to Tamako Love Story, I remember seeing K-On! Season 2 and just thinking there's a lot of potential in Yamada. And that's one reason why I started translating some of her interviews. And then seeing Tamako Love Story just kind of clinched it for me. Like, this is it. Like, I translated so many interviews for Love Story before it aired, or before I actually got to see it on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Would you say that, I might be tempted to say that K-On! Is the best directorial debut I've seen in anime. I'm a little biased because K-On! Is in my top 10 series, so obviously I like it.
Right. No, I mean, let's see, because Ano had Gunbuster as his debut, I want to say. And Gunbuster, but like, when the first competition that comes to mind is Ano. I mean, and Miyazaki had Nausicaa.
Yeah.
But like,
certainly,
when you're already narrowing down the list to Ano and Miyazaki, like,
that's fair. Yeah.
You're in pretty good company. Yeah, no, like, between K-On! Season 1 and Season 2, like, cause how old was she? Like 24, 25?
I don't want to think about it.
You're like, I'm 25 now. I could not direct K-On! Season 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I think she was closer to like 27.
Okay.
That's still too close.
That's still, yeah, no, like, I can't direct K-On! Season 2 in 2 years, man.
What are we doing?
Man.
Yeah, she entered. One of her first works was Full Metal Panic Second Raid, and that was in 2005. So 4 years from that, 26.
Dang. Man. Like, what a rise, too. Like, it is crazy to think about how much Kyoto Animation trusted in her when she took over the reins of K-On! Because she was a rookie director, and, you know, she thought, I believe I read in a interview that she thought she was getting fired when they brought her in.
I was just about to say that.
Well, she had just started.
She was like summoned.
She had just kind of started as an episode director in Clannad. You know, like that was in 2007, and then in less than 2 years, she's directing her own work. You know, that's unheard of. You know, that's
speedrunning in a nutshell.
It is a meteoric rise.
Well, it's also interesting around that time for KyoAni because you had After Story, which was taking up Ishihara. You had Haruhi-chan and Teruya-san, and then the 2009 Haruhi stuff, along with prep for a Disappearance movie. And then you had the Munto TV series that was adapted. So you look at the directors you have on hand, Ishihara's busy supervising After Story and also looking over Haruhi. Takamoto's on Haruhi.
Thank you, Yamakan.
Takamoto's on the Haruhi-chan and going into the other Haruhi stuff. And then Kigami's doing the Munto stuff. They had no one else really to go for. And then you just promote Yamada and above some of the other people like Aratani, who are already there. So that speaks volumes to the confidence they had in Yamada to direct something that was good.
Yeah, I mean, it paid off, and like we talked about this earlier, but like season 2 has such great like small interactions that really bring out the depth of the characters. Like the episode between Ritsu and Mugi, where Ritsu just takes her around town and takes her to like the cheap candy store, and they just like have fun between the two of them. After Ritsu, I mean, I've been like, it's a very relatable situation, right? Like it's in the summer, school's out. You're like trying to find out friends who can hang out, and like most people are busy. So you just, you know, for me, it was like ride the bike around the neighborhood and see who's still out there. And for Ritsu, she's walking around, finds Mugi, and Mugi's like, no, like important bodyguards, leave me be to be with the commoners.
And then also episodes 4 and 5, where you get to see the same thing from two different perspectives. The upperclassmen on their trip to Kyoto, and then the underclassmen just sticking around and taking care of things.
I really liked that because we saw things from Azusa's perspective, and I think, to me, it made the build-up to them leaving Azusa behind even more poignant, because we got to see what a, you know, Ritsu, Yui, Mugi, Mio-less Keonbu would be like for Azusa.
I think that Azusa's arc in the second season works really well because, right in season 1, like she's kind of established as more of an outsider character to the group. And she feels that herself. Like she thinks that she isn't as close with the four of them as they are with each other. And it really builds into the end of the series, and in particular the movie, where they break that down for her. Like she means as much to them as any of the others do. And it leads to some really sweet moments, particularly in the end.
I kind of wanted to say earlier with like the emotional climax of the series, when it really settled in that the series was ending, it was when she specifically said, like they were just kind of having a good time for a bit, and then suddenly Azusa says, "Please don't graduate," and I'm just like, oh man, that's heartbreaking.
That really got me. When she starts like begging, she's like, I won't tell you guys to practice. I'll clean up. I'll feed Tonchan. I won't pester you guys to do schoolwork. Just don't leave me behind. Oh, man.
If you've ever been in a situation like that where you have, friends or whatever moving on, it's some change, and you feel left behind, like that hits home hard.
Yeah. No, and it's just like, I really loved the dynamic too, where like, during the school festival when the four are crying, Azusa's the one with like the tissues, cheering them up and like thanking them. But then when Azusa's crying, they're the ones who, you know, are clear-eyed. They're the ones cheering her up, and Yui's like giving her pictures, giving her a flower, and like really taking the time to cheer her up. And like Yui's become like so much more mature than the girl we first saw who lied about being able to play the harmonica. So, yeah. And like also like throughout, just like because of the simplistic character, like a lot of people get on the fact that like K-On! Has very moe blob character designs. But to me, because of that, they were able to do some like really fluid character animation that really like brought life to them. So even though they were like super simplified, I forget who pointed it out. I was at a panel, I believe at Anime Next a couple of years ago, but someone pointed out how like a lot of the shots in K-On! You think they're in twos or even ones, but actually a lot of them are in threes, but they just have a lot of things going on and are very fluid because of the simplistic character designs that kind of trick, quote unquote, your eye to thinking that it's a much higher frame rate and a lot higher budget.
Bless Horty Horty's designs.
Yeah. We need more of her. Why did she leave us?
I know.
I think it was probably related to all the work that she had done, because she went straight from K-On! To Tamako and to Tamako Love Story. I know that was a lot of stress for her, you know, especially since she's the one that kind of leaked that Tamako Love Story was going to be a movie at the first Kyoani Indo event.
Oh, okay.
I remember reading that in an interview.
Oh yeah, the Kyoan, wasn't that with Jun Fukuyama, and then they were like, oh, Fukuyama, like, use your Giyas to wipe everyone's memories.
Yeah.
It was with the director's talk, and everyone just kind of froze on stage, apparently.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge compliment to their work when, Sora no Woto basically lifts her character designs directly to make that anime.
I literally thought it was her at first.
Uh-huh.
Then I was like, wait, no, it's not.
I watched Sora no Woto first before K-On! And so I actually went to it being like, oh, like Sora no Woto like influenced K-On!'s designs.
Yeah.
But
exact
nope.
opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, and then she also worked on Kokoro Connect, if I remember correctly, as well.
She was the novel illustrator.
Ah, gotcha.
She also works as a novel illustrator.
Hasn't she done like designs or illustrations for that idol group that Sally Amaki is in?
Yeah, 22/7.
Yeah. That's the one, yeah.
She's done all the anime designs. The base designs were done by a bunch of people, and she did one, but she's did the anime character designs. And she's also doing the new movie coming out in September by the Sword Art Online director in 3D, the Hello World.
Oh.
She did the base designs for that.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for that the other day, yeah. It was interesting.
I can't imagine it's easy being the character designer for a Yamada work, because she's like so demanding of the background characters, like looking very realistic, but also incredibly varied.
The only thing that doesn't make me like totally depressed about Horty Horty's absence is the fact that Futoshi Nishiya is also incredible.
Well, before the first season, she was texting Hori Hori at night about character designs as it would pop in her head.
Dang. But yeah. So what were some, like, we touched on there. So like, what were some of your favorite moments from season 2 that did not make you cry?
I have a fun story. Kind of back with the time whenever it aired. Episode 23, when they're recording all those songs on the cassette tape, right after the episode aired, or like between the time where the ending animation plays and the next episode preview comes on, they actually aired a commercial announcing the second Hokugo Tea Time album, and the limited edition came with a cassette that mimicked that exact cassette that they recorded, plus more. And that is how they solicited that album, was right during the episode. And that's episode 23. So I'll still remember that. I I actually have a copy of that still.
Nice.
And I remember there was like a run on cassette players in Japan after the album came out.
I can imagine. Dang, yeah. I mean, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, it is kind of interesting. They kind of, even after the graduation episode, they have like a couple of out of time episodes afterwards, like them getting their passports, with the self-defense stuff that where it's just an excuse to beat up Mio.
The extra episodes are like
with that. Sometimes TBS they want to secure a certain amount of time slots, and so they're guaranteed a certain number. So like for the first season, they were guaranteed 12. So they make a story that finishes in 12 episodes. Well, it turns out they can air 13. So why not put one of the extra episodes on afterwards? And same thing for season 2. They are guaranteed 24. And so they ended up with 2 extras. And that's how we got 2 extras. And then plus 1 for the DVD Blu-rays.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And
uh-huh.
And the hilarious thing, and this kind of ties in later, the passport thing was not a preview for the movie. They had written the script way before the movie had even been decided. It just happened to coincide.
Dang. Well, that's fortuitous timing. And speaking of fortuitous timing and segues, let's talk about the K-On! Movie for a little bit. So, unfortunately, it seems like we did not get what Yamada's initial impression of what the movie was going to be, which, if I remember correctly, she wanted the movie to be about Yui trying to get a thread through the eye of a needle for like an hour and a half, and then everyone would just like, Evangelion style congratulate her at the end.
I mean, that's kind of a microcosm of the show.
I remember actually translating that at this time, and at the time I was like, oh, Yamada, you're such a cad. And now, after seeing Tamako Love Story, after seeing A Silent Voice, after seeing Liz, I'm like, no, she was completely serious. She really thought that would be a pretty interesting movie. And now
seeing Liz really solidified that for me.
And now I can sympathize with Ishihara with his first impression of her was this weird art house girl.
Yeah. When I was watching Liz, that was the first thought that came to my head. I was like, oh, someone actually let her use her first idea for this movie. Like, I haven't counted, but I'm pretty sure there's fewer lines of dialogue in Liz than there is in the film that's literally titled A Silent Voice.
Even if you account for the difference in length, I think that would still be true. Yes, for sure.
Gosh. But yeah, well, the K-On! Movie is Yamada's first feature film, before Love Story, before A Silent Voice, before Listen to Bluebird. And it was really cool for me to see, like, kind of the upscale and budget and direction that she's able to do with the budget, with everything that comes with it being a movie. Did you guys find it similar in that way, or?
I think it definitely does show that it is her first feature film, when at least structurally. It's not quite as tight as her later works. But nevertheless, especially with like, working in the trip, but then also having like the graduation bit at the end, it's a little clunkier. But at the same time, it's a perfect encapsulation of everything that makes K-On! Great, from the dynamic between the characters and the funny interactions to the genuinely heartfelt moments that really hit home because you've grown so close to them.
This is an interesting way to kind of segue into another fun topic, is the discussion of how kind of decisions like that get made, especially with producers and directors. The big question going in is, what is a K-On! Movie? Because for the most part, they're in a school. You don't have anything that's kind of like movie-esque from that. And so they were tossing out ideas. One of them was going to be them playing at a Natsu-fest or something like that. But a graduation trip was something that would be big enough for a movie. But at the same time, they're after-school tea time. How do you have after-school tea time if there's no school? So you end up having to mesh so many different ideas together to make it kind of worthwhile. And Yamada's first idea was to make it about writing those song lyrics. And I think that's what kind of holds it together and gives it its heart.
Agreed. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the film was broken into an A, B, C, and D parts, right?
Right.
Oh, I can see that.
And Yamada did A and D?
Yeah.
Yes.
And also storyboarded B.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad me and Jack have both thoroughly read and memorized your translated interviews, X.
And I've had to go through my chunibyo of embarrassment rereading them.
Okay. They're the Nisemori texts.
Yes.
But yeah, it is kind of crazy to see all of that played out. And like, to me, it was always like, you're right. Like, if it had happened after graduation, I feel like the dynamic would have been completely different. Because you would have already had that resolution, but them building towards the song lyrics, I think, really meshes well with what the band is kind of thinking. And also, like, it ties well to the series as well, because, like, you don't really get the lead up to them singing, Tenshi ni Fureta in the show as much as you do in the movie. And I kind of liked how they fleshed that out.
I kind of like I like the movie, just because it just feels like a nice, normal episode of K-On!, just longer. In a way, I appreciate how Kyoto Animation has handled the series, where, like we said with season 2 and how it's about, them kind of ending this journey. I like that they didn't make K-On! Overstay its welcome, I suppose. As in, like there is a K-On! College manga, and I haven't read it or anything, but I don't know. I just appreciate how Kyoto Animation was willing to just make those 2 seasons. And then the movie is just kind of like, I just kind of call it a victory lap. Like, it doesn't need to happen, but it just kind of exists because, it's just more K-On! And it works because it contextualizes something that happens in season 2. But I like that they didn't really go much further than that with it. Like, they could have expanded it more, but they were willing to just say, they were willing to just quit while they were ahead. They did enough with it, and they can move on with other things.
Right. I think that Azusa's song is that's like the emotional endpoint of this entire series taken together. So the fact that I appreciate the fact that the movie not only doesn't go past that, but like you said, contextualizes that and ends on it itself. It really feels like it ties it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like, first of all, I will also admit, I went to London 2 winters ago, and I made sure to go to all the same places as the Light Music Club went as well, and went to the Great British Museum, went to see the Rosetta Stone replica. And I even tracked down the restaurant or the bar that they go to for breakfast, the Troubadour. Mm-hmm. And it's actually crazy. If you go there in London, they actually have on the outside of the store, on one of the windows, a picture from K-On!, like an 8x11 mini poster of them eating at the restaurant.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And
I think that's from one of the magazines.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, it's really cool. So I went in there, and I was just talking to the bartender. I got a drink, and I was like, oh, it's really cool that you guys have the poster out there. And then he was like, oh, Nihonjin desu ka? And I was like, what? Wait, because it was this really a very typical British dude suddenly talking Japanese to me about K-On! And I was like, wait, what is this? And it just turned out his girlfriend was Japanese, and one of the reasons why he had started working at that bar was because she had seen the thing out there, but he had never seen it. And so it was oh, so what kind of show is this? And here I am at a bar in London, waiting to meet up with my friends, trying to struggle to explain why K-On! Would cause me to go from the US to London to make sure I went to this specific bar. And I'm it's a story of friendship and growing in your adolescence. And I'm like,
It's a
this
show
is not
about
helping.
nothing. It's the Seinfeld of anime.
Fun things are fun.
Fun things are fun. And tea and cakes are also great. But yeah, so like I went there, got to see some of the K-On! Stuff. It was pretty fun. But yeah, but when they come back to Japan, I love that scene when they're on the rooftop and they're all just like, they're just hugging each other. It's like right after, like during or right after the realization that Yui's like, we don't need to make the greatest song ever or the biggest song ever for Azunyan. We can just do one of the songs that we've always done.
And the classroom concert.
The classroom concert scene is so good.
I love Sawako in that scene, with her being so determined, I'm going to protect these girls.
Yeah.
Just like trying to drag the other teacher behind, making sure he can't interrupt.
I just really loved that. That guy was like, yeah, these girls are actually kind of, they're nice and cute because they're just having fun playing music. You guys were fucking weirdos.
Yeah, no, it's great. Man, and like how the whole like classroom bands together to let them do the concert, and they're like on the desks, and then like we start singing "You and I" to Azusa, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, You and I, like, I didn't even really have to read the subtitles for that as I'm like watching it to like understand what the meaning of it was.
I think it's low key probably my favorite of the in-show HTT songs. So excluding the openings and endings, it's probably my favorite, I'd say.
And then, K-On! The movie ends as all Yamada things must, with an extended 1-minute leg shot of them just walking down the bridge and talking to each other. And one of my favorite things about that is, like, even without seeing, anything above their waist, immediately who is who by the way they're walking.
Their entire group dynamic is boiled down to that one extended shot. It's pretty incredible, yeah.
Like, we've been around these, so like it kind of ties into that idea, right, in season 1 where Ritsu knows that it's Mio coming up because she can recognize her footsteps, to the same point that, like, we have spent enough time with Hokago Tea Time that we can recognize them by their footsteps now. So it's like this nice circle of familiarity that Yamada has brought into us.
Yeah, I think that one of my favorite extras that came with the Blu-ray for the K-On! Movie was of them location scouting in London.
Oh yeah.
And I think, like, when you see that, like, you can really tell the, like, painstaking detail they put into recreating some of the real life locations in the movie. And, like, even just, like, looking at, like, side-by-side shots. And obviously, Taylor, you having made the pilgrimage yourself, like, you would know better than any of us. But yeah, I think that really shines through.
Yeah. I still have to make the pilgrimage to their school.
It's wonderful.
All right.
It is wonderful. I went in at the time of the last KyoAni event. There, it's kind of a museum now. They have a new elementary school that was built before K-On! Even aired. And so now, like, the old library is on the second floor is a giant, like, hoard of K-On! Merchandise just for display. And then they also sell their own merchandise. And I got a Mugi, Mio, and Azusa wristband from the high school or elementary school. And then
that sounds amazing.
And then also in the music room, they have plastic sets of tea and cake.
Oh man,
there's just so much, like, just love. They have the boards from the third opening for their introductions drawn out, and just there's so much there. It was glorious.
Yeah, I hadn't been able to make time to go to the to the elementary school my last 2 trips to Kyoto, but this year I am 100% going to see all the K-On! Sets and just, like, check out the neighborhood and the just trying to see the sets on location. It's also cool, like, so having gone to the new KyoAni Endo shop that they have in Kyoto, they have, like, a bunch of drawn I don't know how you like
In-betweens.
In-betweens, there we go. Of the K-On characters that are available to purchase. So it's very cool how much love they still have for this franchise that is now 10 years old.
Yeah. I believe they have badges and a postcard as well. They don't have much merchandise for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I made sure to get some of the badges, but yeah, it's you can definitely see that there's less merchandise for things that came before, like Chunikoi 2012, than there is afterwards. But yeah, it's just, man. So Jack, you brought this up, but so does You and I stack up for anyone else as their favorite song, and whether in or out of the show? So including, character songs, the OPs, EDs. Moz, did you have a favorite Hokaku Tea Time song?
My favorite is it's also one of my favorite EDs of all time, but it's Don't Say Lazy.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one, yeah. And Yamada Naoko animated Mio's talking part at the very beginning, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it also kind of like kickstarted our knowledge of the fact that like Yamada Naoko really likes having like nude, but from the collarbone up shots of like high school of the characters she directs, because she's done that for Tamako Love Story promo stuff.
Mm-hmm. Those were on the tickets, weren't they?
Yeah. And then she did that for the Chunikoi ED as well.
Yeah, I wanted to mention the K-On EDs because they are so good.
They really are.
Oh, they're so
Every
good.
single one of them is so good. Like, I would take it over like 95% of all other EDs in anime. In particular, that's one thing that Yamada really excels at, is just EDs. And I think it's because most of them have that like music video style. And she just seems to put like way more into them visually than you see with a lot of anime endings. That being said, my favorite is definitely No Thank You, which is the second ending of the second season.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
That's a banger right there.
I want to give some love, though, to Singing from the movie, because I feel like that one, people forget about that sometimes, but the movie's ending is great, too.
Yes.
You must be this tall to ride always makes me laugh. As it pans up the little slide. It's just out of nowhere, and it just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It's so totally discongruent.
Right? Oh, man. Yeah, no, I really like Singing is really fun. Like, I'm really glad Sentai has all these official releases. Make sure to get them as well. I may have happened across a fan sub version of the movie ED that had like the BBC logo at the bottom left as well.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it made it like really funny
official.
to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like the OPs are like, it's really funny how much of a contrast there is between the OPs and EDs. Like the EDs are like, like more Death Devil than Hokaku Tea Time. With Mio singing them, and they're like a lot more rock, metal-y kind of. Whereas the openings are very like pop rocky, like very
cutesy,
happy Yui stuff. Especially the Ichiban Ippai, the OP of the movie, is like the most happy song in the world.
It's so bubbly.
Yeah.
There's like little bubbles all over the screen.
It has like that storybook feeling.
Exactly.
Well, the first season's OP was storyboard and directed by Ishihara. So I kind of toss it in with my Ishihara OPs as kind of somewhat visual novel-esque, as it's introducing each of the main cast in that way. And I think Yamada kind of carried that on for the ones in the second season. And then the movie one is her first, like, I would call official opening. Like what she would do herself.
Yeah, you had the cliche anime thing where you have the character and like their name next to them, introducing them in each OP in the first one. Oh, but that's interesting. I didn't know that was Ishihara because that first OP also has the turtle stones that make an appearance in Tamako Market and especially Tamako Love Story in that river. So I always thought that was Yamada, but interesting that it was Ishihara. I guess they're kind of just a Kyoani staple, Kyoto landmark, I guess.
Well, I mean, the main part of K-On was based all around that area in Kyoto. Like, it's around the Shugakuin area. The station that Mugi gets off is Shugakuin Station, which, sorry to digress, but people may know I'm a train fan. There was one moment I was looking at a scene from the movie, and Mugi is getting off of a train and passing through the gates, and there are actual gates at Shugakuin Station in universe. I had been to Shugakuin Station in 2016. There were not any gates. So I'm like, did they just magically add gates to this station? No, they were actually there in 2009, and they have been removed.
Man, when you take attention to detail so seriously, man, I mean, I believe it. That's crazy. That does actually make their school trip a little funnier, though, because they go to Kyoto.
They kind of just cross the city. Like, the Shugakuin Station's kind of the northeast side, and the Arashiyama, where they go for the trip, the cliche one, it's kind of on the western side of Kyoto.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember when I was walking to Kikankuji for the first time, the Gold Temple, and I was like, that sign looks really familiar. And then, like, I took a picture of it, and I go back and I go, like, find that episode of K-On! When they're on their field trip, and sure enough, it was like, I had managed somehow to take the same picture and the same shot that they had of the sign leading to the temple. So, it was fun.
I had gone to that area the first time I went in Kyoto, and whenever I rewatched that episode the first time afterwards, it brought back so many memories. It was just like I was there again.
Y'all are killing me with these Japan trips, man.
One last thing kind of about that area, the Shugakuin area, it seemed to me like kind of the rich area of Kyoto. And so now I just have it as kind of like in my head fanon, that's why they were able to go to Europe for a trip. That's why they could get instruments, is they were in the rich area of Kyoto.
Well, it would make sense that Mugi would be there.
I was actually thinking that, like, yo, they just asked their parents, like, yo, is it okay if we go to Europe? And then they're like, yeah. And then they're like, yeah, can we also, like, get extra seat tickets to bring our instruments over? Like, how crazy expensive must that be? And yet they're like, yeah, no, you could definitely do it. That's fine. So
I'm just going to explain everything away with Mugi being bougie.
Hey.
Well, she's the one that didn't bring her instrument.
That's true.
Touche.
And then in the dub, they actually got Little Karibo to voice the sushi owner, sushi place owner in the movie, when, like, Mugi's arguing with them to get the piano in place.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of the dub, like, the season 2 dub has one of my favorite anime dub moments, when Ritsu and Yui are, like, seeing the sample exam that Mugi gives them, and they're like, oh, no English. We don't need no stinking English.
Oh, yeah. How do they handle that?
I was like, oh, like...
Do they just say that in English?
Yeah, they do. It's like Yui and Ritsu being like, oh, we don't need no English. We're Japanese. We're gonna live only knowing Japanese. Yeah! And it's just like, I really appreciated the commitment they had to, like, translating it or, like, dubbing it faithfully. So it made it was like
what else would you do with
but
that?
Also, like, very funny. And they also did the same thing when they go to London. Like, Ritsu suddenly speaks, like, broken English to the sushi owner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't forget, they live in Japan and somehow use United States dollars.
Oh, they do?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, you know, the exchange rate was really good for them then. So, you know, you have to.
That's one I'll probably credit TBS on.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot with the season 1 release with Bandai, even preventing them from including the textless openings and endings on their release.
Oh, interesting. Is there a reason why, you think?
It was probably importation. I mean, K-On! Was just such a huge hit in Japan. They didn't want anyone to ruin it and import, even though it was in singles releases.
Oh, interesting. Well, speaking of a little bit of the industry aspect of it, So now it's been 10 years since K-On! Has come out, was first released. And I've had this discussion with a couple of friends, and for better or worse, it's one of those questions that kind of came me up, which is, what has been the most influential anime since Evangelion? And to me, it always comes down to like Code Geass, K-On!, Haruhi in that tier.
And Madoka.
Do you guys... Oh, sorry?
And Madoka.
And Madoka, yes, for sure. Do you guys agree with that kind of sentiment? And how do you feel like K-On! Changed the anime landscape for you guys? Jack, as the AniTuber of note, would you like to chime in?
Oh, he did.
Oh, he did? No, the AniTubers got to him. Womas, as another AniTuber yourself.
Oh boy.
How have you found the K-On! Influence to have changed the anime industry in at least your eyes?
I don't know. I suppose it would just be, you know, there would be more about how should I put this? Like, I feel like lots of slice of life series are just, you know, similar coming of age types of stories would look to K-On! As to what to do. 'Cause like, off the top of my head, I can tell you that, you know, A Place Further Than the Universe was clearly inspired and even referenced K-On! Several times. I also remember when Bang Dream came out, that first episode, it kind of had a very similar main character to Yui. So I don't know, I just think that lots of, I don't really know too much about, you know, anime before the 2010s and all, but I feel like there'd be, like there wasn't a whole lot like K-On! At the time, where it was just kind of simpler, more laid back types of stories about, you know, not much going on. And now it really opened that market up, and now lots of different people are realizing, hey, we can make interesting stories about this, and, you know, they can be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the main character in Sorayori definitely reminds me of Yui, even the hairstyle to some extent, and how she's so reliant on her friend, who's not as great as Nodoka, because Nodoka's great. But yeah, there are definitely similarities there, and then I feel like the rush with Yuru Yuri, with is the Order of Rabbit. I feel like a lot of those franchises kind of evolved from K-On! As well.
Both from K-On! And Hidamari Sketch, those were the first two Manga Time Kirara shows to be made. And so then you started getting a lot of them, like Gochiusa and some of the others that are just slipping my mind right now.
Gakogurashi, you know, exactly like K-On! School Life.
Yuru Camp.
Yeah, Yuru Camp.
We had a talk about this on the retrospective. About Kirara time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Kirara time. Yeah. One of my good friend of yours, I believe, X, Kevin Yuyukow. One of my favorite tweets by his is the Kirara jump compilation. Yeah. So for those listening at home who don't know about the Kirara jump, it's like the jump in Hidamari Sketch, in Unhappy and Gakogurashi, in New Game and K-On!, where they're like jumping in the air with like the clouds and the sun behind them. And it's like a very similar thing across all those anime. And yeah, K-On! Has it. I didn't realize K-On! Was like one of the first ones from Kirara to get an adaptation.
It was one of the first, like Ma said, with the band aspect. That was one reason why TBS's Nakayama wanted it. I mean, there was the movie Linda, 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 but that was live action. And so this was like the first time that you had a girls band anime. And so you see now with Bang Dream and somewhat, I would say, kind of idol shows as well. You know, not that K-On! Is idol-y, but I think it kind of led towards those in some way.
Yeah, for me at least, like I know I started watching Idolmaster 2011 because, you know, people were saying like in some ways it was similar to K-On! And I can definitely see kind of the influences there.
K-On! Killed anime. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear that you are spouting the heathens.
I am
lies.
I have returned.
You have returned from the land of the... K-On! Literally brought you back from the dead.
Yes, and it did not bring anime back from the dead. It sent anime to the dead.
It killed anime.
It's all over. It's all been downhill since.
I'm pretty sure... was it like... I feel like in part, Miyazaki saying like anime is dead or whatever. Or was it Anno? Or Miyazaki? I think it was Miyazaki.
That's Miyazaki, but that's like a somewhat of a misquote, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I think I've seen it attributed to both.
Mm-hmm. I can kind of see it. But like,
and at least I know whatever the original statement was like completely taken out of context.
Oh, for sure. What? The internet would take a quote out of a context?
Shocking development.
Gosh. But speaking of shocking developments, now that you're back, how do you think, from your perspective, especially because you do a lot of analytical takes on anime, especially recent ones, how do you feel K-On! Affected the development of anime post K-On!
So yeah, it's hard for me to like entirely say just because I wasn't around the fandom when K-On! First came out, so I wasn't able to like really get a sense of it then. Only in hindsight. But I think that like you guys have mentioned, it's clear the influence that K-On! Had in inspiring a lot of other Kirara series in a similar vein. I think that of all of the K-On! Clones, if you want to say, I don't think any of them have quite lived up to the charm of the original. But anyone spouting off some nonsense about Doomsday, like how K-On! And Moe destroyed anime, are completely talking out of their ass, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no. It's great. Like, to some extent, I would say like anime was kind of in like not dying, but it was definitely on the downturn before like 2007, or 2006, 2007, and like really got revitalized because of Haruhi, Code Geass, Gurren Lagann, and then like K-On! Really opened up a new market as well to like really bring it out. And yeah, I'd say like, you know, it's one of those things that like, will the real K-On! Please stand up? Because like, I really don't see like Yuri Yuri, I think kind of tried to capture some of that, but it was like leaned way more towards the male-oriented, male lens point of view than K-On! Did for sure.
Something that I think has been misattributed to K-On! Like, I think especially Western fans and even like journalists' coverage of the series over time, and especially closer to when it first aired, I think lumped it in with some of these other cute girls shows you see more often nowadays that have that like heavy male gaze, which of course is doubly ironic to say that about K-On! Seeing as how it was made by women predominantly.
Yeah, because the director, the screenwriter, the character designer, the lead animation director were all women.
Right. And even some academics have misattributed K-On! To have been being made by men. X can attest to that.
The worst take I've seen. It's not directly. It is related to K-On!
It is directly.
Yeah, it's the Anime Encyclopedia, which
that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, like I will be on there because like I'm. Not to start a beef or anything, but like that is completely so misinformed on everything K-On! And then that's not even my biggest bone to pick. My biggest bone is that in the Tamako Market section, she said it's once again made by men and it's from a manga by the same mangaka as K-On! I'm like, if you did 5 seconds of research, you would know that's not true.
Yeah, I forget the name of the author of the Anime Encyclopedia, but Tamako is definitely an original series.
There were 2 authors, and I'll give one credit. Jonathan Clements has come around. He's spoken very highly of Yamada whenever they've had her in the UK for A Silent Voice and Liz and the Bluebird. So I'll give him credit that he's come around, but that was still a horrible take when that was written previously.
Yeah.
Right. And in what some might consider a higher profile Western release of a book on anime.
It's literally called an encyclopedia, and yet it's full of opinions.
Exactly. Yeah. And just straight up misinformation.
Yeah. Wrongly informed, opinionated takes in an encyclopedia. But, now we know, because now we have amazing translated interviews, including those available in the Sentai Filmworks Blu-ray box set for K-On!, which has translated interviews and comments from Season 1, Season 2, and the movies as well. So definitely check those out. But yeah, it's been crazy to see the moe boom. But for me, like, the only shows that I've enjoyed that are like K-On!-esque are the ones that go the complete opposite direction. So like Soro no Oto is set in like a post-apocalyptic world. School Live is not K-On! to put it lightly. I love School Live. It's one of my favorites, but it seems like it's K-On!, but it's not K-On!. But yeah, like Yuri Yuri, I enjoyed season 3 a lot. The OPs were fun and catchy, but it just didn't have the same heart as K-On!, and I don't know if we'll ever find something that's the same as K-On!. And I think even Yamada said, like, the only reason she was able to make K-On! was because she was so young at the time and like didn't, quote unquote, didn't know better.
Again, it goes back. I think Yamada's words can also be described with that's something she could only do at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just in her works, it's in her as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy to see, especially like because I watched K-On! And then I watched Tamako, because Tamako Love Story had just finished airing had just been released at around the time I was watching, or like had been around for around a year, because it was 2015, late 2014, early 2015. And then it like Euphonium dropped right after I finished watching through K-On! And Tamako. Was expecting more K-On!, was not more K-On!
When we talk about K-On!'s impact, the first promotional video for Euphonium made everyone think this is going to be K-On! Again. And then I read the novel and I just said, no.
It's funny because Euphonium is the band drama people originally thought they might have been getting with K-On!
Yeah, because the Strike Up the Band preview, where it just has like Kumiko being cute, and just like I was just like, oh, this is just gonna be like an HD version of K-On! It's like, no, it's a lot more drama than that. But yeah, actually, X, how do you feel like K-On! Influenced Kyoto Animation's growth from that? Because after that, it seemed like they like really skyrocketed into the anime conscious. I mean, they had before with Haruhi and Clannad, but it seemed like after that they became like a major player in the anime sphere. And how much influence do you think K-On! Had on that?
I definitely think with having TBS behind K-On! And TBS promoting it and being able to have a special episode on the day that the movie came out in Japan on the main TBS station, that helped get their name out there. Also, during the second season, they began to take out ads during K-On! Season 2, and that's where you start to see them make those ads to promote themselves. So that also kind of helped out. I know in a lot of news articles since then, they've been a lot of journalists will put them as, the studio that made K-On! And blah, 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 blah. So it's still prevalent there for a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm surprised that they still, I mean, I guess in some sense it makes sense that they say like the studio that made K-On!, but even with their more, popular recent works like Free, with UFO, with Violet Evergarden, with, even going retrospectively to Haruhi, that they would latch on to K-On!.
It's usually K-On! In a silent voice. I think that was the ones that really hit the quote-unquote mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, not necessarily related to Kyoto Animation, but the K-On! Movie, it was one of the first late-night movies to really do well at the box office, and that helped kick off a lot of the ones that we've seen lately in the trend towards movies.
Mm-hmm. There's a huge boom in franchise films.
Yeah, because that came out in 2011.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, really like the landmark year for anime, because we had the K-On! Movie, we had Nichijou, we had Fate Zero, First Core, we had Madoka.
Steins Gate, right?
Steins Gate was that season as well. Mawaru Penguin Drum was that season as well.
Iroha.
Or that year. Yeah, Harasaku, yeah, Iroha was, that is also like, we really had a ton of, Tiger and Bunny was that year. I actually have a bookmarks folder of just 2011 anime that I've been trying to get through.
Anohana?
Yeah, Anohana was there. Usagi Drop, number 6, Mirai Nikki. So like a lot of things. Hotarubi no Morie was
Nichijou.
that. Yeah, Wandering Sun, Horuo Musuko was that year as well. It was just like a...
I think we have our anime, or our year of the decade.
Yeah.
For anime.
It's like, how does one year have so many good anime? And then like the films that came out that year that were really notable were the 15th Detective Conan movie and K-On! The movie as well. So it's just kind of crazy to see that 2011 was so good, and it's also nice to see that K-On! Was part of that 2011 year. Did we mention Madoka? I think we mentioned Madoka.
I think so.
Yeah. It's just like there's so many good anime in 2011. I always feel like I'm forgetting one of them.
I think when you talk about K-On's influence within Kyoto Animation, like more so than particularly the other two big name series that were airing around the same time, being Haruhi and Clannad, I feel like K-On definitely has a much more like visible, clearly strong influence on their style of storytelling and also their visual aesthetic than those other two do. Like K-On! To me is like the first series that I think of as like modern KyoAni. And like you could also point to probably Chunibyo, because that's really when they changed their model. But just in terms of like aesthetic, I think K-On! Really captures that.
Like the Kyoto Animation Award started 2009. Chunibyo was awarded the Novel Honorable Mention Award in 2010. It was published in 2011, right alongside K-On! So.
Oh. So, I mean, Kyoto Animation now is just like a fucking behemoth in the anime industry with what their publishing arm as well.
I wouldn't say behemoth. They're definitely known among anime fans, but you know, again, above the mainstream, you're looking at K-On! In a silent voice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That's why Liz was so promoted as from a silent voice.
Right. Not and completely had no attachment to the Sound Euphonium name at all.
Right. One of the members of our podcast, Shaw, actually, even though she's a UFO fan, had no idea Liz and the Bluebird was the UFO movie. She was like, there's the UFO movie that's coming out, and they're also doing Liz and the Bluebird.
I remember the teaser for it being announced with the second Euphonium movie, May the Melody Be With You, and everyone was like, what is this? And I had to say, no, this is UFO. It's the title of the song they're playing in their second year. It's UFO, believe me.
Yeah. Because the original teaser and the original key visual depicted the girl and the blue bird, so like it was the fairy tale illustration or whatever. So yeah, there was a lot of confusion.
That's interesting. I guess I am biased just because I follow everything KyoAni, but I always figured they were like in the same stratosphere as like they were like in the Shaft Production IG. There was like a Shaft Production IG KyoAni sphere kind of.
Yeah, but that's beneath, spheres like TMS and Toei Animation and Studio Pierrot, which make, the bigger name things,
Right.
You look at Toei Animation and you've got Dragon Ball, you've got One Piece, you've got Sailor Moon, and all of those they've been invested in. So they're much bigger, staff-wise internally, and just from financial standpoint and just general name standpoint, you could probably say Toei Animation and people will know that. You say Kyoto Animation, they may look at you weird if you're not in Kyoto.
I think it does have a bit more of niche appeal, and then especially when you consider the size of the studio in terms of its staff, and then coupled with the way they operate and how they keep everything in-house, you're not going to have like... It's weird to think of KyoAni producing Clannad, K-On! And Haruhi like simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just not used to that like level of output, given the staff that they have.
And Munto TV.
And Munto, right.
It's always forgotten.
You would expect to see that from like, You would
Poor
expect to
Kigami.
see that level of output more from like A1 Pictures or something like that, one of these larger studios that may be producing 4 shows at the same time under the A1 Pictures name, but those 4 shows have 100% different staffs behind them. And so it's like, you know, there's not much of an identity there. Whereas KyoAni definitely has a very, very distinct identity.
Yeah. And it's also funny for me to see like certain animators and certain directors being like propped up as being like ex-KyoAni. Like Hiroko Utsume, who was the director for Free, like whenever she takes on a role, like with Banana Fish, people were like, oh, like acclaimed ex-KyoAni staffer. And with Kaguya Wants to Be Confessed To, or Kaguya-sama Love is War, they were like, oh, it's like a bunch of ex-KyoAni and ex-Shaft people working for A1 Pictures. Or Cloverworks, whatever umbrella of Sony it was.
Well, Utsume got her debut as episode director in K-On! Season 2.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that. I always thought it was the Hyoka episode where they're at the hot springs. Because I know she did that one, and I was like, oh, it makes sense. Like, you know, she very well directed Oreki and Satoshi in the hot spring. So they were like, yes, we'll continue giving hot guys and water to direct.
She did the tea ceremony one when they celebrate Mio. And also Azusa's Summer Vacation.
Oh, okay.
Oh, those 2 are great.
Yeah. The Asusa Summer Vacation one is like really simple, but like really, really sweet. And I really like Yui's message at the end that like really ties them all together. The text message out of nowhere.
And also Romeo and Juliet, the stage play episode.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so to kind of cap it all off, how do you guys feel, you know, maybe it hasn't been 10 years for you, but how do you feel your anime watching experience, generally you have been changed since watching K-On! Moss?
I would say actually that I don't know how much, but I think that K-On! Has actually quite deeply affected me because I'm someone who definitely likes to consider the overall appeal and the point of a show, I suppose. Like, you know, everything exists for a reason. Everything is supposed to be for, you know, for something. And so K-On! Existing as something that it's not really necessarily trying to tell a story, but it's just, you know, again, fun things are fun. That's something that I kind of look for, and it actually made me realize that, or it's one of the shows that's made me realize, that characters are what's more important to me than anything, where it doesn't matter what story is being told. Like, if it's a good story, it's fine, but it really matters how good the characters are. Because I can watch, you know, as long as they're good characters, I can watch them do anything, and that this show is definite proof of that. It's made me realize how well characters can develop individually on their own, but also with, you know, others as a group, because that's definitely what this series does. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about it.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, so I think that, to me, K-On! Is a series that you can most appreciate once you're removed from that time in your life. Because, like, when I first watched season 1, I was a senior in high school. So I was, like, basically that same age. And it was only, like, once I graduated high school and watched season 2 in the movie, like, that arc at the end of it, that really hit home because I'd experienced that myself. And I think that, like, once you have that distance between your own experience and the experience of the characters in the show, like, that moment and those moments in the second half of season 2 really, really drive home. Overall, like, K-On! Definitely made a pretty substantial impact on me personally. I mean, even in just like the content I make, it was watching season 2 and the movie that made me want to, like, do more of these, like, analytical video essay type stuff. In fact, the K-On! One was one of the very first ones that I did. And actually the very first one I did was on KyoAni, and a lot of it was about K-On! So like on that level, on my like channel and whatnot, I have K-On! To thank for a lot. But even just like personally, it's something that has stuck with me. And whenever I'm in a bad mood or something like that, I know that I can put an episode of K-On! And it's going to cheer me up.
Yeah, I actually I do the same thing when I'm sick or I'm not feeling great. I'll just put on a random episode of K-On! And in fact, one of my first episodes for the R Anime podcast, I'm recording it and I'm feeling really sick. I actually left for like 15 minutes to like, throw up in the bathroom. And then like I come back because, gotta stick it out for the podcast. We finished recording and I'm like, man, I feel really sick. I'm going to watch some K-On! And as I'm watching more K-On!, I'm like, I'm not feeling any better. This must be really serious. Long story short, I find myself in the emergency room like 2 K-On! Episodes later.
Oh no.
And find out I have both the stomach virus and the stomach flu.
Oh boy.
So, yeah, there are some things K-On! Can't cure. But
see, the fact that it didn't cheer you up made you realize something was seriously off.
I was like, if K-On! Can't cure me now, nothing but modern medicine can.
I actually thought you were about to say that you left the podcast to watch K-On!
I mean, who could blame you?
I know. Hold on, guys. I have to... Yeah, no. I didn't leave the podcast to watch K-On!, but instead, since then, I think I've brought up K-On! In like literally every other podcast episode. I think even in the Shonen, like Shonen Jump episode, I bring up K-On! Briefly. So that's why we finally did this K-On! Episode. And how about you, X? What has K-On! Meant to you?
I kind of mentioned it earlier. It was the first thing that kind of changed my mind to think, these cutesy type shows are interesting to me. And it helped me kind of give those more of a chance. Also helped me kind of delve back into KyoAni's works because other than Haruhi, I had given Canon a try, but it didn't work for me. So K-On! Was the next step into it, and I started watching it and fell in love with the studio. And then later, I started really beginning to admire Yamada's works and beginning to, root for her as a director before it was the big thing, So that's why I started translating all these, because I said, hey, the director of K-On! Is pretty good. You might want to look at her. You might want to listen to what she has to say. All right, if no one else is doing this, I'll do it myself.
Nice.
A decision we are unbelievably thankful for.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because for me, like K-On! Is 100% the most influential anime in my life. Because before K-On!, even though I watched like seasonals and watched some anime here and there, they were like Attack on Titan, Sword Art Online, Unlimited Blade Works. I wasn't like really watching anything to learn about directors or like storytelling depth or like storyboarding or anything about like the technical side of anime. I was just watching it for entertainment. But like K-On! Blew me away so much, and I just like loved it so much that I remember I immediately went on like Wikipedia to find out like who the director was, and then I was like, oh, like this guy has all these interviews about K-On! And Yamada, and then has all these stuff about like the upcoming UFO stuff. And has some like interviews, a ton of interviews actually about Tamako Love Story. Oh my god, they have every single interview about Tamako Love Story.
No, I actually didn't have all of them at the time. I did end up saving most of those for the Yamada season we ran at Sakuga Blog in fall 2016.
Ooh. Yeah. No, yeah, and I read those too. I remember reading those and being like, I thought I would just be rereading the same ones, but a lot of these are new. X, have you been holding back on me?
I was translating for months leading up to that. It started out as a thing about Tamako Love Story, and then I had so many that I was like, you know what, why don't we just have a Yamada season? And then I didn't have a new K-On! One, so I had to rerun one of the old K-On! Ones. So that was my disappointment.
I remember that very vividly because I had been like formulating a video on Yamada myself. And like I was like getting ready to start working on that, and then you guys did that at Sakuga Blog, and I was like, oh my god, there was all this new information that I was like, I had to make sure I wasn't just like spouting off stuff that was outdated.
How close were you to making that Yamada episode? Would you say you were at the edge Would you say you were at the edge of the universe?
Oh, I see what you did there.
Hey.
Clever.
Thank you. I am nothing if not that. So I'm often nothing. But yeah, thanks to those interviews, I like got really invested into the anime industry scene. And then I reached out to you and you were like, because I was like trying to run a panel at Anime Next, and you let me use all your resources to conduct that panel, which was really crazy. It was the first time I had ever done a panel anime related. Actually, it was, I think, the first time I had ever done like a public presentation of any sort. And so like, thanks to that, got even more indebted into the anime community. Eventually found my way onto this podcast, and now I just talk about anime for like several hours a day now, and it all comes down to K-On! And yeah, I'm really thankful for it, and really thankful for, I think, like attitude change wise too. Just the way I approach things became very different, going from like a very shonen mentality to my entertainment to a very like K-On! Like genuineness aspect of enjoying my entertainment and like storytelling. And being a lot more unashamed about the enthusiasm you have for like things that make you happy. I think that's the message that K-On! Tries to convey.
Fun things are fun.
Fun things are fun.
We've said it many times. Fun things are fun.
If there's any one takeaway.
K-On! Has many a meme. The Mio Strawberry meme, the Mugi Strong meme. But I think one of my favorite memes is the Legend of the Galactic Heroes versus K-On! One, where it's like the difference in subtlety in anime, and it has like the quote from Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which is like, "Dogs will eat dog food," and it has like it's like, oh, like haha, dog, like poor, like lower class people are lower class or whatever, and then it juxtaposes it right next to K-On! With Yui saying like fun things are fun, and it goes into like this whole like Kantian-esque like explanation of like what fun is and like the depths of like philosophical layers that Yui is going through. And hold on, here we go. Let's see. Nope.
I mean, to be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand K-On!
Yes, yeah. So, with all that in mind, K-On! Is fun. It's great. Like if you've somehow listened to this to this episode without watching the anime, I don't even think like knowing what happens. Like, can you really spoil? Like, you can kind of spoiler parts of K-On!, I guess, but it's really something you can watch anytime, knowing whatever you do about the franchise as a whole.
Yeah. I would say it's really not something you can spoil. I mean, there's not like plot elements and stuff are minor to actually experiencing them.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of expect what will happen anyway. And any specific things we said, we didn't really say when they happen.
Except episode 20. But, like, man, that hits you. Oh my gosh. That's like top 5 moments in anime where I've cried the hardest. Yeah, so, and not only is it good on a first time watch, but definitely on a rewatch. And so to bring it back, thank you again to HIDIVE and Sentai Filmworks for sponsoring this episode. You can check out seasons 1, season 2, and the movie subbed or dubbed on HIDIVE.com, as well as the various platforms they're on, from iOS, Android, Xbox. You can find them on Verve as well. So you can watch K-On! There, either for the first time or on a rewatch. And thanks to Sentai Filmworks, again, we have this amazing Blu-ray box set for K-On! That's just, I can't even describe how awesome it is. First of all, the box itself is pretty cool. It kind of looks like one of those rollout cases you have for like a speaker or a guitar or something to bring onto a concert stage. You lift it up, there's an art box, and it has the Blu-ray editions of the TV show, seasons 1 and 2, the movie, a bunch of extras, like we mentioned before, like director commentary, comments from Yukiko Horiguchi, and it even has, in season 2's pamphlets, like notes from the classmates to the Light Music Club, that are just really sweet to see. And then it has a whole bunch of production notes as well. So one, you can go and get your own copy of it by going to SentaiFilmworks.com, or you can win yourself a copy by entering into our giveaway by following at Tokyo Podfathers, the R-Anime podcast Twitter account, following Sentai Filmworks, following HIDIVE at HIDIVE Official, and retweeting the tweet that has the link to this episode. It's going to be pinned on our profile, so you can't miss it. And all you got to do is like and retweet it, so share it, and then if you want, you can also reply to the tweet with your favorite moment, your favorite character, anything you love about K-On! And then, for the third way to enter into this podcast giveaway, you can go to the episode on YouTube, subscribe to the R-Anime podcast, and then leave a comment below on this episode about your favorite moment of K-On!, why you love it. And so that's 3 entries to give you for this ridiculously amazing premium limited edition Blu-ray box set for K-On!, show that we all love, and that is most definitely fun. Giveaways are giveaways, and fun things are fun. So thank you guys again for coming on to the podcast. Jack, if people want to follow you for more Kyoto animation videos, for more KyoAni takes, for Starlight review takes, and even some Fate takes, where can they find you?
You can absolutely expect the Starlight takes coming very soon. But so you can find me at my YouTube channel, UnderTheScope, or follow me on Twitter at JackUTS.
I'm actually really excited for that Starlight episode since I just finished watching Shoujo Kakeki review Starlight.
It's been a lot. It's long, and I'm editing this one myself. And
ooh. Mr. Nice Guys has a break for once.
Yeah, it's been a journey doing this one.
Starlight also available on HIDIVE. And UltimatemegaX, where can people find you and your amazing work?
I'm on Twitter at UltimatemegaX, and I'm kind of semi-retired at this point. I'm not doing a lot of translations anymore, just due to time constraints. But a lot of my old translations are found. I think I've got a pinned tweet that has my translation master list, because they're on my blog, ultimatemegaX.wordpress.com. I had a Tumblr where I translated some free, and also on the Sakuga blog. And
you also have the Tamako episode director's notes exclusive to the R-Anime Tamako Valentine's rewatch,
which I need to link in the master list. Thank you for reminding me.
I do appreciate that you were able to provide us with that translation for the rewatch. It was very
They were
nice.
just tiny comments. It was nothing.
No, it was... KyoAni things are KyoAni, I guess. And Moz, if people want to follow you or the R-Anime podcast, where can they find us?
Oh, well, they can, they know our Twitter, but, you can find me at Mozilla Fennekin. I might say a few more words than I did on this podcast, but of much less important stuff. I also have a YouTube channel, Mozilla Fennekin, where I talk about some comedy anime sometimes.
And
yeah.
The R-Anime podcast is available on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Simplecast, on iTunes, pretty much wherever podcasts are available to be found. You can also check out our Discord. The invite link is below. You can check their Discord there. We're always available to talk about any of the episodes that we've been on, and also a ton of other stuff. We had a whole Promised Neverland channel going on. We had a JoJo spoiler channel going on. We talk sports, we talk anime. It's a lot of fun. Definitely join if you have the time. So again, thank you so much for listening to our episode. Sorry if it went a little long, but hey, we love K-On! And until next time, stay tuned.
It's time to turn this K off. Yeah, I did it.